I stepped onto the empty streets of Oregon's forgotten towns, and a chill ran down my spine. There's something haunting about places where laughter, life, and dreams once thrived, and now only silence remains. Walking among Bayocean, Cornucopia, Golden, Valsetz, and Bates, I could almost feel the echoes of families, miners, and children who called these towns home. It's unsettling, heartbreaking, and strangely beautiful all at once. These abandoned places don't just tell history, they reveal the fragility of human dreams. If you're enjoying this journey through Oregon's abandoned towns, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Traveling Guide Hub for more real-life adventures you won't want to miss. 1. Bayocean, Oregon. The wind was already loud when I reached the narrow strip of sand where Bayocean, Oregon once stood. There were no buildings, no streets, no houses to welcome me. Just waves, broken wood half buried in sand, and a strange feeling that I was standing on a place that was never meant to be found again. It didn't feel like visiting an abandoned town. It felt like visiting a memory that the ocean tried to erase. Bayocean was once called the Atlantic City of the West. In the early 1900s, people came here for holidays, music, hotels, and ocean views. There were dance halls, stores, and families who believed this place would last forever. But the city was built on a fragile sand spit, and nature never agreed with human plans. Storms kept hitting. Waves grew stronger every year. Slowly, the ocean started taking pieces of the town back. Streets disappeared first, then homes, then entire blocks. By the 1950s, Bayocean was officially abandoned, not because people wanted to leave, but because there was nothing left to stay for. As I walked along the beach, I kept imagining footsteps next to mine. I imagined children running toward the water, couples laughing, shop doors opening. But all I heard was the ocean crashing again and again, like it was reminding me who really won. I bent down and touched a piece of old timber sticking out of the sand. It was smooth, worn by decades of waves. Someone once nailed this wood by hand. Someone trusted it to protect their home. What stayed with me the most was the silence between the waves. It felt heavy, not empty, but full of stories that had nowhere to go. I felt a strange sadness mixed with respect. These people didn't abandon Bayocean. Bayocean abandoned them. Imagine watching your house slowly disappear knowing you can't stop it. Imagine packing memories instead of furniture. Standing there, I realized why this place feels worse than anyone expects. There are no ruins to explore, no walls to lean against, just absence. And sometimes absence hits harder than decay. Bayocean doesn't look abandoned at first glance because it's almost completely gone. That's what makes it haunting. When I finally turned back, the tide was already higher than before. The ocean was still moving forward, still claiming ground, and I understood something deeply human in that moment. We build cities believing they will outlive us, but Bayocean is proof that nature doesn't need time or permission. It only needs patience, and it always waits. 2. Cornucopia, Oregon. The road to Cornucopia, Oregon is quiet, narrow, and lonely. When I finally reached the town, the first thing I noticed was how still everything felt. No voices, no engines, no movement. Just old wooden buildings sitting under the mountains as if they were holding their breath. It didn't feel scary at first. It felt tired, like a place that had lived too much life and was finally resting. Cornucopia was once a busy gold mining town in the late 1800s. Thousands of people came here chasing hope. Gold was found in the mountains, and almost overnight, Cornucopia turned into a boom town. There were hotels, saloons, a school, a post office, and homes filled with families. People believed this place would make them rich and give their children a future. For a while, it worked. Gold changed hands, businesses grew, and life moved fast. But gold never lasts forever. As the mines started producing less, money slowed down. People began leaving quietly, one by one. By the early 1900s, the town started to empty. When the mines finally closed, Cornucopia didn't collapse in one moment. It faded. Families packed their things, locked their doors, and walked away, believing they might return someday. Most never did. Walking through Cornucopia today feels personal. I stepped inside an old building with broken windows, and the floor creaked under my feet. It felt wrong to rush. I imagined someone standing here 100 years ago worried about the same things we worry about today: money, family, and the future. That thought made the place feel human, not historical. What surprised me most was how peaceful it felt. There was no loud wind, no dramatic sound, just birds and the soft noise of trees moving. But that calm carried weight. I felt a quiet sadness, not fear. This town didn't fail because people were careless. It failed because dreams sometimes end. I sat on a fallen beam and looked at the mountains surrounding Cornucopia. They are beautiful, but also unforgiving. Living here must have been hard. Winters were long, supplies were limited, and once the gold was gone, there was no reason to stay. That realization hit me slowly. Cornucopia wasn't abandoned in anger, it was abandoned with acceptance. As I left, I looked back one last time. The buildings stood silently, not asking for attention. They felt like witnesses, not ruins. Cornucopia is not just an abandoned town. It is a reminder that real people lived here, hoped here, and eventually learned when to let go. And that makes this place feel more alive than it looks. 3. Golden, Oregon. The first thing I noticed about Golden, Oregon was the silence. Not the kind of silence you hear when a town sleeps, but the heavy, almost uncomfortable quiet of a place where life has simply disappeared. The wind whispered through empty streets and broken structures, carrying the faint smell of old wood and earth. I took a deep breath and felt the weight of decades pressing down on me. Golden was once a bustling mining town in the late 1800s. Gold had been discovered nearby, and almost overnight, people poured in from all over the country. Families built homes, stores opened, and the town thrived with the constant clinking of pickaxes and the laughter of children. The streets were alive with horse-drawn carriages, merchants shouting prices, and miners dreaming of wealth. For a short while, Golden seemed invincible, a shining promise carved into the rugged Oregon mountains. But life in Golden was never easy. Winters were harsh, food was scarce at times, and the mountains could be unforgiving. Still, the people held on, believing in the dream that brought them there. I could almost feel their presence as I walked through the remnants of the town. Each broken board, each collapsed roof seemed to whisper stories of hope, struggle, and resilience. Over time, the gold ran out. Families started leaving quietly, one by one. Shops closed, schoolrooms emptied, and the laughter faded. By the early 20th century, Golden had become a ghost town. What remained were memories embedded in crumbling walls, stories in the silence, and traces of life stubbornly clinging to the earth. As I wandered the deserted streets, I imagined what it must have felt like for someone standing where I was 100 years ago. Maybe a miner, tired and dirty from a long day, watching the sunset behind the mountains, thinking about whether tomorrow would bring fortune or disappointment. That thought made the silence feel alive, almost sacred. I stopped near an old, leaning cabin. Touching its weathered wood, I felt a strange connection. This was a place people had loved, fought for, and left behind. It made me reflect on life, impermanence, and the traces we leave behind. Golden wasn't just a town, It was a story of human ambition, courage, and the inevitable passage of time. As I left, the wind seemed to follow me, carrying the echoes of laughter and labor long gone. Golden, Oregon doesn't just stand as an abandoned town, it stands as a silent witness to human dreams and the fragility of life. And somewhere in that quiet, I felt a strange sense of peace, knowing that even in abandonment, the town's story continues to live. 4. Valsetz, Oregon. The road to Valsetz, Oregon winds through thick forests and narrow hills, and when I finally arrived at the spot where the town once stood, the first thing I noticed was how completely invisible it felt. There were no streets, no houses, no signs, just dense trees, moss-covered stumps, and the faint outline of what used to be. It was hard to believe that people once lived here, worked here, and called this place home. Valsetz was a company logging town built in the early 1900s by the timber industry. Families moved here, drawn by the promise of steady work and a small but tight-knit community. Life was structured around the lumber mill. Children played in the woods, workers spent long hours cutting timber, and weekends were filled with simple pleasures, picnics, dances, and storytelling. For decades, the town thrived. It was small, but it had heart, and people depended on it. But towns built entirely around one industry are always fragile. In the 1980s, the mill closed, and there was no reason for anyone to stay. Families packed up, leaving behind their homes, schools, and community spaces. Unlike many abandoned towns, Valsetz didn't slowly decay, it was erased. The company systematically dismantled the buildings, and the forests began reclaiming the land almost immediately. Within a few years, the town had vanished, leaving only memories and faint traces of streets hidden under moss and brush. Walking there today, I felt a strange mix of awe and sadness. I imagined children running through the streets, their laughter bouncing off timber buildings. I imagined parents calling their families in for dinner, the smell of wood smoke in the air. And then I thought about the moment they all left, watching their homes disappear, knowing they might never come back. That thought made the silence feel heavier, almost sacred. I found a small clearing and sat on a moss-covered stump, letting my thoughts drift. It was easy to feel connected to the lives that had once filled this place, and yet it was haunting to realize how completely time can erase human presence. The stories of Valsetz live only in memory and in the careful notes of historians, but standing there, I felt the echoes of the people who had made it home. As I left, the trees swayed gently, hiding any trace of the town behind them. Valsetz, Oregon is more than a ghost town. It's a reminder of the delicate balance between human ambition and nature's unstoppable force. And in that quiet, I understood why some places, even after they disappear, can leave a lasting impression on anyone who walks their grounds.
5. Bates, Oregon. The moment I stepped onto the land where Bates, Oregon once thrived, I felt an eerie stillness. There were no streets, no signs of life, only the skeletal remains of wooden foundations and the quiet rustle of wind through the trees. It was hard to believe that this place had once been full of families, workers, and dreams. The air itself seemed heavy with memories. Bates was a small logging town established in the early 1900s to support the booming timber industry in Oregon. Families moved here for work, drawn by the promise of steady jobs and a close-knit community. Life revolved around the sawmill. The hum of machines marked the rhythm of the town. Children ran through the narrow streets, their laughter mingling with the clatter of logs and the smell of sawdust. Evenings were filled with storytelling, simple dinners, and the occasional dance in the town hall. For decades, Bates was alive, vibrant, and full of hope. But towns that rely on a single industry are always fragile. When the mill closed in the mid-20th century, there was no reason for anyone to stay.
Families packed their belongings, boarded trucks, and quietly left behind the homes and shops they had built with care. Unlike towns abandoned by tragedy or disaster, Bates faded slowly. Nature began reclaiming it immediately. Trees grew where streets had been, moss covered the wooden planks, and wildlife returned to spaces once filled with human activity. As I wandered through the empty grounds, I could almost picture the people who had lived there. A father fixing a roof, a child chasing a dog, neighbors greeting each other in the morning. That connection made the emptiness feel even heavier. Bates wasn't abandoned because people wanted to leave. It was abandoned because the lifeline of the town had vanished, and with it, the heartbeat of a community. I sat on a fallen log, letting the quiet sink in. The wind whispered stories of hard work, resilience, and everyday life now gone. Bates, Oregon may appear as nothing more than ruins, but in those remnants you can feel the pulse of human history. It's a place where ambition, labor, and dreams once converged, and even though time has erased nearly everything, the echoes of its past linger. Leaving Bates, I glanced back one last time. The foundations, the moss, and the wild trees seemed to watch me leave, silently guarding the memories of a town that once was, and reminding me that even the smallest communities leave lasting imprints on the land and on the heart.